it's either a really good idea or a really bad idea. I don't know yet, no. Probably won't for another 10 or 15 or 20 years, depending on how things go. What's interesting about growing from seed is you want to create new varieties. You want to hybridize or breed new varieties. You don't simply want to take the seeds from self-pollinating vines. Self-pollinating vines carry recessive genes. So because grapes are hermaphroditic, they pollinate themselves. You don't want those. So you have to go to the tedious effort of pollinating one grapevine with another, which means removing the male parts of one and pollinating it with pollen from another, and then of course extracting the seeds, germinating the seeds, and growing them out. We're still in the earliest going of this project, and it's so hard to know what we will get. I'm thinking that if we can establish a really diverse population of grapes, we can accomplish potentially a couple of interesting things. One is, oddly enough, suppress varietal expression. So in other words, with all this wide diversity of, wide genetic diversity, varietal characteristics will potentially attenuate, which could allow for other characteristics to emerge, to wit, the soil characteristics. That's part one of the experiment. The other part, too, which I will most likely not live long enough to see, is potentially observing, because you're doing so much iteration through the process of what is called sélection massale, you could potentially isolate individual genotypes that seem to be better suited to the site than others. At least externally, you can observe particular individuals that have more drought tolerance, that ripen more appropriately, that have higher acidity or lower acidity, better color, smaller, different grape morphology, smaller clusters, whatever it might be. Whether they have superior winemaking qualities, that's a little more difficult to determine because you have to do little micro-vinifications on an individual plant, which is of course very difficult. So there's probably some indicators, biochemical, that correlate to complexity in winemaking, but it's not at all obvious what those might be. You can look at the gross ones, but the subtle ones, who, for example, would intuit, looking at a Nebbiolo vine, if you were to see a Nebbiolo vine in a field of 10,000 other vines, how would you necessarily come to the conclusion that Nebbiolo was a genius grape? It's not so obvious. Why not? We've actually planted some small test plots of Grape, and the wine it makes is utterly delicious.